gather the insights that we have received during our background on submitting proposals for FP7, Horizon 2020, and now under Horizon Europe. So we are trying to update this training that we have provided to different institutions in the past, and also here locally at our region under a governmental program for training for new project managers, and also within our university. So I would say that some of the practice that we already implemented under FP7 are still relevant. So this is why we are trying to share with you this knowledge and feedback. But of course, this is a bilateral training, so we are also willing to hear from you which are your practices and your approaches, trying to also learn from what you are doing right now there in Tunisia. So what about how to set up a consortium? Okay. So let's discuss about the first insights. Well, we are not going to provide you here a magic solution. We are not having magic formulas. We are not the better consultants, and we cannot guarantee success, but we can, let's say, agree that we can provide you support on how to better draft a proposal, how to establish a consortium. And I mean, what we used to say is that when you are training a project manager will be completed after he's able to prepare the proposal, to negotiate the proposal, to manage the proposal, to close the proposal. So at the end, we can have someone with experience once he or she can confirm these 5 years of experience of the entire time framework of a proposal, from the submission to the closure of the proposal. So let's discuss about the issue. Let's say that you come and you say, I have a project idea. Well, this could be the starting point for a successful proposal, but there's plenty of questions to be sure if we can put a lot of efforts in terms of human resources, financial resources to draft the proposal. This is a more competitive world nowadays, and we need to first understand which is the strategy of the organization that is willing to submit a proposal from the idea. If they have a support structure, if they are aware about the regulations, if they know which are the funding mechanisms, if they know the rules, the typical consortium constraints, the average size of the project consortium, the timing of the proposal preparation, just to understand at the end if we have a premature concept or if it's a mature one and it wants to pay attention. At the end is a lot of background gained experience to decide if you go or not, and then to start asking other questions. So from the project idea, we could start with, okay, it's suitable for some of the goals within the work programs that they have targeted. It is really innovative, which is the technical strengths that the beneficiary is claiming. It's based on some principles. There is a proven record of publications, of patents, a lot of background that could support this technical strength. Does the project idea have a European dimension? I mean, this is the typical reply to the 5 questions. Who is the interested? Why Europe should invest there? You have to always put on the side of the funding agency to understand if your project idea could be granted. I mean, at the end, if you were going to put money on that idea, after all, you have to go and check the CORDIS, the funding tenders portal, and patents applications to understand if someone already funded something similar to your project idea. Then you have to make the question yourself about why we should bother about drafting this project idea. And of course, what is the solution to the problem? But here the exercise is not anymore to provide generic statements, is to convince the people that will be reading your draft concept note about the importance and the magnitude of the project idea that you are submitting, why they should put attention. You have to convince them with clear key performance indicators based on SMART criteria to define the aims of your project idea. And then is why to proceed with a research and development and innovation project rather than consider that the company could directly fund that knowledge and grant it from themselves. And of course, why right now? There are good ideas that due to the fact that they were presented at the wrong time were not successfully granted. So these are a starting set of questions that ourselves should be doing when we have a project idea to consider. So then we'll reach the step of planification versus outcomes. So why the proposals don't used to come out? Well, sometimes it's because they are incomplete. And you observe that there is a lack of planning. Because there is a delay on submission due to the lack of planning, because there is no relevant, and fundamentally because information is missing. At the end, is planification. So if we can't plan well in advance, we are not discussing about the typical 3 months under FP7, 6 months under Horizon 2020. Now we are moving to a new paradigm depending on the ambition of the proposal, that we could estimate around 9 months of preparation and plan in advance a future proposal. And of course, at the early stage, you will need to make this kind of pre-proposal external check by someone that you trust with experience enough to consider if it was to pay attention to that proposal. So which are the key aspects that we consider when we are trying to prepare a proposal with someone external, when we enter and start to understand the structure of the applicant or the partner? Well, is to duly understand the research performance of that institution. So the question is, do they have project managers that could support them on the submission of their proposal? If they already have, which is their, let's say, background experience on policy and impact? How they are, if they have experience on drafting properly based on facts and figures? Which are the capabilities and the skills of management of the institution and the staff included? Are they able to prepare the budgets and understand the constraints and the negotiation with their partners? Do they have problems when filling the forms and the potential modifications? So the other issue is to start sharing the perception that which is the proposal drafting strategy that they used to follow. And we used to recommend for a single editor, central one of the proposal, to avoid the inconsistencies, because the background of working simultaneously of a document of all the people from different countries, cultures, is not the same. So at the end is, once you have all this knowledge, is try to create now with the impact driving canvas a concept of the proposals in 2 hours to start having this seed of a potential proposal to be circulated, to create all the questions. And at the end, you will be spending 2-3 weeks on this canvas to generate a consistent one that you can later on start selling to your potential partners to be engaged on your proposal. So concerning the excellence of the partners that you want to engage on such a proposals. So be aware that the proposals are no longer anonymous and that you have to engage excellent research industrial partners, because the excellence is a requirement. But at the end, here, we have a problem that probably you will identify a pope on your research area. But sometimes you need to research a little bit more, because we have in the past observed that maybe popes are not the suitable partners for your journey, because they rely on on their visibility, on their experience to get involved in proposals. But if you are successful and you are granted, maybe you realize that the pope was not really willing to participate in the proposal and will relay the participation in their colleagues that maybe they are not so excellent. So this is something that when you target a pope in your research area, you have to consider. You have to pay attention on which was the behavior of this key opinion leader in other proposals in the past. And if your idea is close to their core interest, to understand how it will be their engagement in your proposal preparation, but what is more important, in your proposal development, because at the end, it's like when you raise a child. The problems are not the 9 months of pregnancy. The problems are when you start raising the child and big problems appear. So with the projects, used to be the same. It's not about the project preparation, drafting, and submission. The real problems start when you have the project and you need to manage, and the problems appear about partners moving, partners disappearing, political issues, diseases like COVID, and so on. So key aspects about, well, we are not the suitable partners, but we have a good project idea. Then we need to look for a strong and experienced coordinator to learn from them if this is our first entrance to this type of international projects, preferentially with track record proven experience in FP5 Horizon 2020 projects coordination, that they have a strong financial position, especially due to potential financial crisis, avoid non-European potential coordinators due to financial crisis, and so on. So you have to be aware about these potential issues, that they have already resources to execute a coordination, and they have available the project managers, and their curricula are available, are accessible. In the case of that you consider a company to be the coordinator, I would say that first target their experience, if they have been able, or if you are an SME and you want to be a coordinator, you should have this experience. So try to share the actual data for these partners or coordinators that you want to engage. And also pay attention to the potential economic situation in case that they have debts. So let's say that you have to build a balance consortium. So when you draft the part of your proposal or your skill matrix, you define the corresponding keywords of the value chain of your project idea. And then with this set of keywords, you try to understand which are the partners that could contribute at the needs, at the development, the testing, exploitation, dissemination, and communication stages of, let's say, in that case, it was an example of an IT project, the chip design, the device design, the software development, telecommunication service development. So for each work package at the end, you need to prepare these kind of keywords and try to understand which is the needs that you may have in terms of knowledge and experience at different stages of the development. So this is a good starting point to start populating the activities that you will need, who has the experience and how they are going to be engaged. But of course, we have also to consider that one of the most relevant aspects is luck. I mean, we have already experienced a lot of great proposals being submitted and dying at the shore of the threshold because particular issues. And you compare with other proposals being submitted at the same time that you could participate, and then you realize that they were not strong enough compared to the ones that you submitted, but they were lucky due to the reviewer that they were assigned. So, I mean, the competition is quite high, and you don't know how many proposals will be submitted and who will be competing with you. So you have to try to target the highest possible quality on your proposal and try to reduce as much as possible the luck component. At the end, depending on the calls, we are observing a success ratio of 7–10%. And depending on the call, we could reach the 20%, but these are the special ones and maybe we don't have the experience of the topics to address them. The other issue, the other suggestion that we used to recommend is try to get familiar with the different national contact points of your country and try to gather information from their sites, such as the rankings, the final position of the different proposals, try to discuss with them potential outputs of the evaluation summary reports of the proposals in case you are rejected, because from there you will have a lot of learnings. So if you could attend periodically also to these national info days, you have the chance to meet other project managers or other project coordinators, exchange experience and background, and gather knowledge and best better practices. And this is what we have learned and that we used to recommend at this stage with the national contact points. So then it's time to move to the task distribution. So let's say that you already have this magnificent project idea. What's next? Okay, so this is what we have learned from the project's life cycle point of view, that during the phase one, you will think, okay, I'm spending so much time on preparing the proposal. And then on phase two, we need to wait a lot of time for the evaluation. With the negotiation phase, the stress starts, and you will be requested to gather a lot of information in a short time to reply to the questions raised by the managing authority. And with that stress, if you are lucky, you will reach to the granting phase, and you will need to manage the proposal. And this will be the most stressful part of all these phases, because you will have the daily development of the project, the risk mitigation, the solving the problems that may arise, reaching time the delivery of the mandatory documents, reports, reaching the milestones that you already set up on your proposal. And one of the things that we don't used to consider is the exploitation, that you should start by the mid of your project, and you should need to keep beyond the project. And this is quite important in case that you want to submit additional proposals, because a lot of success will capitalize around how you exploited previous granted proposals, how you transformed the knowledge that you gather into additional funding, into cooperation with companies, into patents licensing, into publications, appearance in key conferences, and so on. The issue here is that you need experienced project managers, because despite you may have some room for maneuver at the different phases, depending on the experience of the project manager, maybe you fail on some of these critical phases. So we recommend to have a project manager that, if you don't have the access, try to engage them from the beginning and try to rely on him for all the project development, to grant the experience, to have a relevant staff by the end of phase 5 that could support you in future proposals. And it's not about repeating some structures. Well, in fact, we already have a structure internally at our university that we don't agree with. I mean, at our university, we have a team just addressing proposal preparation, a team just supporting the researchers on the negotiation phase, a team just addressing the management phase, and a team just addressing the exploitation. And we say that at the end, we have a problem of communication between the different teams and the different phases. So what is better is, for each project, you assign a project manager, or let's say that you have a project manager for a pool of 4, a maximum of 4, because beyond 4 projects, the people start to collapse and they are not able to manage this number of projects properly. So I would say that from our experience and learnings, what is best is to have a project manager engaged from the proposal to the exploitation, because then you will have a relevant human resource for the future and to support future proposals. This is the way that we have learned all these best and bad practices. So under Horizon Europe cycle and this already new concept of impact-driven framework program, at the end you have an iterative process on, okay, you start from the impact design, try to understand which is the intervention logic, which are the already existing clusters, destinations, and missions that apply for our project. And then we proceed to understand how we can implement that, how we can proceed with our project development, work plan, deliverables, milestones. And then we circulate and start discussing about how we are going to track and evaluate the impact of our proposal, which are the monitoring key impacts that we want to reflect on that proposal, which is the management and implementation data that we may need. Are we aware about which will be the interim and ex-post evaluation? And then on each cycle of iteration, you will be improving your proposal. So let's focus on phase 1. So for phase 1, we indicate that you will need different subphases to detect, to prioritize, to define, to elaborate, to build up, and start drafting. So the most important ones that will save you a lot of resources and timing is to put the effort on detecting and prioritize, trying to understand which are the most appropriate areas for the project idea you have in mind, and decide the priority for the different proposals. So this is an internal activity of your managing office in charge of that. And when you address how we should prioritize the different project ideas, it's just to understand which are the requirements of the counterpart, in that case, the European Research Executive Agency, and how we intend to elaborate the proposal. It has a sense at the political and technical language of the European Commission. Let's say that we have already detected a project idea that is already prioritized within our institution. So now let's start defining the basic characteristics and try to make this draft concept note based on the impact-driven canvas. And once we have clear in mind what we want to develop, which are the target groups, the needs, how we are going to exploit, which are the outcomes, which are the impacts, try to elaborate a coherent work plan for achieving the aims that we are proposing. And from that, we will later on understand which are our needs in terms of the main effort, in terms of the activities, in terms of the experience, to start building up the consortium. to understand which are the knowledge and skills that we need and start contacting the partners. And with all this information, we could start with the drafting subphase and coordinating the efforts with the rest of the partners. So this is the Holy Bible. This is what you already need to, let's say, have at your bed when you are thinking to submit proposals. The work programs for the different calls, for the different years, and for the different topics of interest. So you should be aware about all the guidelines, all the policy aspects, all the key initiatives that are around the different work programs that you are targeting, to really be aware of which are the key issues to be addressed within the proposal preparation. So which are the basic pillars of the phase one? Okay, let's define the projects, let's elaborate the work plan, start to set up the consortium, and with all this information, we could move to the drafting sub-stage. About the work plan, what we used to recommend is to appoint a proposal writer that generates this impact-driven canvas concept to be circulated, and start defining a core group of partners with in initial consortium meetings to start distribute the work once you all agree on this project concept. Try to define the work packages, how is going to be developed the management, who will be in charge of the exploitation, which are the exploitation routes, and start compiling the information of the proposal to be reviewed before you submit the proposal. So this is a typical Gantt of the different stages during a Horizon 2020 proposal, and let's say what we were discussing about 6-7 months of preparation in advance of the deadline of the electronic submission. So this is what we were discussing, about 1 month for the ideas generation by the coordination and the group and the core group of partners. Then we have 3 months to work around the level of innovation, to make the corresponding analysis, to understand the European dimensions, requirements, the aims of the project, to review on an iterative way the approach, the statements of the work program, to consolidate which will be your ideal initial group of partners to be engaged with you to develop the proposal. These are 3 months in advance of the publication of the call, and then once it's released the call, you need to recheck, because you were working based on draft of the work plans. So maybe they changed some keyword, some paragraphs that now makes your project idea weaker. And you need to rethink how you are going to reformulate to fit to the proposal. So this could happen. So be aware about potential last-minute modification of the calls that could have a catastrophic impact on your project idea. So I would say that by that time, you should already have prepared all these concept notes. In case you are not, this is the time to do so. And let's start making some preliminary external evaluation with your national contact points, with external experts, with regional entities or contacts you may have, to understand if it was to spend resources on preparing the proposal. Let's say that you have already all this information. It's time to also start building up the consortium, searching the partners, trying to select which are the most suitable ones. Try to avoid engaging your friends on the proposals. It's like you were an evaluator. You want the best people in your project. So you will rely on experiences that the partners that you convince that it worth to join on your proposal based on a consolidated, credible, and sound project idea and approach. If you are able to convince them, you will be gaining more points on a potential success of the proposal. If you rely on your friends, then it's not the same. So I'm trying to release different tips during the speech, and this could be one. Try to avoid engaging your friends or having a consortium, plenty of friends. Otherwise, you will be playing endogamy game and you will die later of different aspects provided by your friends. So try to enrich the blood of your network for different projects with new blood, new knowledge, new people, and try to learn from their experiences, their approaches, and try to avoid being always on the same circle of friends, institutions, submitting proposals. We move to the next step on defining the work plan. So it's time to start distributing the tasks for the technical section for those partners that they have the key knowledge, and they will be the best to draft these key technical sections rather than you. This is the point where you could rely on them, but you will need to push them, and you will need at the end sometimes whipping them to gather the feedback that you are needing on time. So you used to assign a work package to a specific partner after several meetings that let you understand that they are the key persons to lead that work package. So later on, you move to the elaboration of a first draft of the technical section. You establish the corresponding deadlines for the partners to confirm their involvement, commitment. And I would say that you may have you need to have some extra time for last minute engagement in case that you detect that you are failing to have a key experience on your proposal. So you will need this time of time framework open to engage additional partners. So during this month number 5, you will probably need to keep constantly different conference to control the evolution of the tasks that you disclose to different partners. And at the end, you will need also to confirm the roles of each partner, that they feel suitable to lead the work package, to participate and provide you on time the estimated dedication and the cost of their main effort. So by month 6, you should have a first draft of the proposal consolidated based on the contribution of the partners, and start with the first review and request the corresponding remarks, improvements, and prepare an updated version. So now you will enter on the last month cycle of iterative discussion and review of the budget, the administrative forms, the improvements of the proposal, with more conference, to at the end have during the last week a final review before the electronic submission of the proposal. So regarding defining the project, so we already indicated that we have this suitable project idea. We need to define the scope, the state of the art, benchmark against the state of the art, to understand the situation, the departure point, and to define your targeted arrival situation. So you prepare this executive summary, 1-2 pages from the impact-driven canvas. So you pull all the information that you gather on the canvas on a document. And you need to clarify and properly communicate your idea to convince and attract potential partners. So at the end, what we used to recommend is to write like engineers. When you read a document from an engineer, I would say that we all agree that you fully understand what is required. They are moved by specifications, so they need to be clear. If you read a document from a politician, I would say that we could agree
that there is a lot of subjectivity there, and maybe there are different points of view to understand which is the aim of the document. So what we suggest is try to be engineers, try to be clear on what we want to disclose, on the content, on how we are organizing, because if we are clear, we will get more attention from our targeted partner. We will need to clearly specify the background of our project idea to fully reveal which is the problem that we want to solve. So let's display a brief state of the art. If you could include a relevant diagram, picture, an infographic of the problem, this will open the door to keep discussing with a partner. Then you need to specify the general and specific aims that your proposal is trying to address. I would say that at this part, you have to avoid the political language. If you want to introduce some, I would say just include a footnote, and then you address to the targeted flagship or political recommendation that you want to reflect. Because at this stage, you want to avoid diluting your message because you don't want to confuse and you are scarce of time to address with each partner. And of course, try to start advancing, which is the expected duration of the overall idea, which is the expected budget and the main effort. And if you could advance, because you already are aware about the assignment to that partner, start sharing with them which is the budget that you foresee for them and the main effort that you will require to complete, because you need to delimit in some way the ambition of your partner to be engaged on the project. But you need to verify beforehand, again, after different discussions, that there is no last time issue that makes your idea not relevant anymore. If there are other solutions of the market or other consortiums planning to submit something, in that case, does it have sense to approach them to understand what they are missing in case that we can merge both consortiums to have a win-win situation? Because we are eliminating competitors and we are making our proposals stronger. And of course, try to revisit again in case that the European Commission has not updated properly new projects funded in your targeted topic. And of course, if you have detected some, try to include brief statements, 2-3 lines about, okay, these projects were already funded by the European Commission to address this issue, but we are completely different because these, and these aspects. Or, of course, check it against the US Patent Office or Google Patents in case there are relevant patents out there that you are not aware and that could invalidate your proposal during the evaluation, because they could say, okay, there is not innovative and you cannot demonstrate that there is a clear progress beyond the state of the art. So as a conclusion, I would say, please attend to info days, the international and national ones. Try to reach your national contact points to support you on getting interpretation of the calls, to allow you be aware about the network of partners at the national and international level that are willing to submit a proposal in the same call. Try to work on the proposal as much as possible in advance. Now we are not at the 1-3 months stage. As you have observed, we have moved from this to the 6-9 months of preparation of the proposal. Our colleagues from INRAP can already share with you their experience about, if we sum up the cumulative main effort that we developed for the submission of the different grants, you will realize that at the end, we are close to that figures of 6-9 months. So this is an important aspect. And of course, if the initial screening that we develop about our project idea is not positive, let's try to replace. I mean, it's not a time that we lost, it's a time that we gained experience that allowed us to pivot to another potential project idea. And we got a lot of knowledge about the network of partners, of the potential solutions, and will help us prepare future actions. So within the executive summary, we need to identify who is the coordinator. So let's say that we have this project idea and we need to reflect, should our institution be the coordinator, or we prefer that another partner develops that role? You have to be aware that if you are the coordinator, you will have the control during the submission, the negotiation, and the development of the proposal, but this will mean that you will have a huge workload. On the other hand, you will gain a lot of visibility in front of the European Commission and the scientific community if you succeed on the development of the proposal. Otherwise, you will have a lot of bad communication against you because you failed on the development of the proposal. So we have this executive summary. We check it inside, but we need to check it outside. We need to request feedback, try to arrange virtual calls, not phone calls. It's from the past, but sometimes it's better face-to-face if it's possible, because we want to decide if we move forward on the proposal submission, and we have a feedback that allows you to pivot, to update, to progress, or to refuse on the proposal, to consider it is appropriate or not. And of course, the executive summary must replay to what we want to do based on the goal, on the scope, on the expected impact. Try to identify if we are submitting something that is innovative enough, that there are no proposals that exist, or if they exist, we can reflect which is our advantage. Let's try to reflect there a benchmarking. We need to give a statistical data to sell the impact of our proposal, and try to understand how we are going to proceed, how we describe the different work packages. We need to be brief, we need to be concise. And this is even more important now within Horizon Europe. They no longer want, within your work package description, 3 pages to describe what you are going to do under a single work package. Now, what we have learned is that you need just 6 lines for the task of a work package. So, and a maximum of 4-5 tasks under a single work package. So the main idea is to have 1 page per work package where you define the aims, the tasks, and the deliverables that you want to develop. The next question is, who? You must introduce there which is your consortium, which are the specialists and you have to label them in some way with fancy, catchy keywords to identify that they are the right persons to develop the activities. And finally, try to explain which is the total amount of your budget, the grant that you are claiming, and the duration of your project proposal. So if you reply to these questions and you do it under an engineering approach, you will have a convincing draft concept of your proposal. And if you include the corresponding infographics, you will excel on that proposal preparation. So just try to recall these key questions. And if you have played already the role of evaluating European proposals, you will realize that this is quite important. I would say when you are evaluator, you have a time schedule to evaluate proposals that sometimes is a little bit stressful, and you have plenty of proposals to evaluate in a short time. And you need to convince the evaluator. So it is quite important that the exercise that you played under the executive summary, you translate to the proposal, first 2 pages. And within the first 2 pages, you need to convince the evaluator to keep reading with attention what you already mentioned. So try to implement on the first page all this information. Try to be brief. Try to provide your aims under a SMART criteria. Try to quantify on a convincing and credible way what you want to implement in your proposal. And then your evaluator will keep the attention and will continue reading. So this is a challenging issue. And now we have the problem that we are shortening more the length of the proposals. So we have to avoid being paraphrasing, being using a political language. An engineering proposal have more potential of success rather than a political one if we are targeting scientific calls. So this is what we indicated in case that you are not aware about the SMART criteria. The SMART criteria try to define the aims that you are willing to claim or raise during your proposal. And these aims must be specific. You should be able to measure. You have to demonstrate that they can be attained during the time frame of the proposal, that they are relevant in front of the proposed state of the art, and they are time-based. And you have to differentiate between the general objectives, that they are those at the long term, beyond the duration of the project, that you want to improve, to strengthen, to facilitate, to make the people realize about whatever, and the specific ones that are those to be developed during the project implementation phase, during the testing, the pilot, or developing the new concept. So, which are the useful questions that you could employ to identify the aims of your proposal? So let's start defining which is the challenge and which are the previous problems that were specified in the field with references about how they solved it in the past. So from this knowledge of the background, you could try to reply to what should be reached and which is the problem that should be addressed and solved. Because at the end, you are transforming your aims into the consortium vision. And you are reflecting there that your consortium is the best suitable one to solve the problem that you have already identified. The other question is, which are the needs that that a consortium needs to deliver in order to reach the expected impacts drafted in the call of the proposal? And when you are doing this kind of questions, you have to cross-check through the entire scope of the proposal and that you are replying to the different raised remarks or questions by the European Commission. So are the objectives of your project meaningful? Do they have the magnitude and importance? Are you able to quantify them? And what is the underlying concept that allows you to draft the hypothesis and the main assumptions that you are claiming? The other issues are, well, sometimes you have an overreaching goal and you need to subordinate some specific ones. So you need to pay attention on how you link these specific goals to the global one, and try to understand how you link the specific aims to the different topics or keywords that appear on the scope and expected outcomes of the goal. Because these aims later on, you will connect with the work packages, with the deliverables, with the milestones, because this will allow you to quantify in some way the aims that you are drafting. So we return again to the first page of the proposal. This is what we already advanced about trying to convince the evaluator, to put yourself in the position of the evaluator. So the specific way that you address will provide you extra lives on the survival game of the proposal evaluation. So if you clearly identify your aim, you quantify it, you specify the background, you are gaining points. So another set of questions for your first page is, which is the problem that you want to solve? Why should be European Commission involved? Which is the level of engagement? Why is important for them? Is the knowledge that our consortium intends to develop a real solution? It's already available in case of innovation actions. How you tested, which was the upgrade level, which was the tier L that you reached with your solution, which is the initial one that from what you are started. You need to demonstrate which is the lifetime evolution of your project idea from the initial TRL till the end after the project. And why is the perfect time now to do your proposal? And of course, why your consortium is the best one, the most successful, experienced to develop the proposal that you suggest. Then we move to the elaboration of the work plan. It's time to build up the consortium, to design the work plan, to start assigning responsibilities. So what we used to recommend is to break down the aims of each work package into single specific tasks and try to be as meticulous as possible to identify any single gap that it could be needed to the development of your work package to reach the deliverables that you intend, and of course reflect which are the milestones that are going to be employed to validate the activity that you developed under this work package. So let's say that you already defined that specific task, then you need to indicate how. And these are the maximum 6 lines that we identified. Then with all this description, you will need to start estimating the workloads for each partner and assign the corresponding budgets depending on the mean effort rate that they have shared with you. And try to be as meticulous as possible, because you will always have later on time to simplify and reduce during the different iterative cycles of review of the proposal. when you start breaking your work package into activities, you can also simultaneously have the understanding on how the different work packages are linked. So you draft your Perez diagram. You are also starting to estimate the duration of the activities through the Gantt chart. There, you will understand the congruence of the different activities, the dependencies between the different work packages or activities, and you will have the chance to understand which are the bottlenecks of all the issues that you already raised there, and then need the interaction of different partners. So you will have a list of work packages, a list of aims, and then you need to understand how they are interconnected, which are the contributions of each work package to the specific aims that you already defined. Of course, within the work package, you will need to transform the outputs of each activity into corresponding deliverables and milestones to be reached. And then you will need to build up the resources matrix of roles and responsibilities, because this will allow you to estimate the effort of each partner and each activity to define the budget. It's no longer about discussing a partner and he said, I want 100,000 euros to develop this activity. And you say, okay, let's plan the activities that you want to develop. No, we need to do it the other way. You have not to know which is the partner that you want to engage. You have to avoid the numbers. You need to define the real activity to be developed. And later on, you will transform into numbers. So let's say that we already defined who is the coordinator, who is the partner. Then we need to move to the next question. What is a good consortium? Which is the role I can play in a consortium? Where I do look for partners? How do I enhance my visibility to participate in proposals that I'm not aware of? So here we have another cycle about which is the type of consortium that we need, which is the experience, knowledge, and know-how that we need, at which level, at the technical, at the infrastructure, at the management, at the exploitation, at the communication. So which are the profiles that we need from the value chain of the problem? Do we need universities, large companies, small, medium enterprises, technology centers, NGOs, chambers of commerce, technology transfer office? What are the contacts that we have? Do we need to rely on the partners network to start gathering more partners for the keyword activities that we already identified and that we don't have a partners to develop? So on a good consortium, you will have an experienced coordinator with scientists that have a good track record on the targeted topics, that they have relevant expertise and skills to develop the proposal, that you have plenty of infrastructure, relevant access to big infrastructure, relevant labs, cutting-edge equipment, that you have plenty of resources at the human and economic level, and you are involving key staff from your institution. Your consortium should be multidisciplinary, that you have relevant stakeholders from the entire value chain of your problem, from the research to the citizens, including, I would say, the widest possible penta-helix ecosystem of your project, and that you are able to properly distribute the work, the effort, and the budget to the development of this action. And you have to clearly reflect which is the added value of each partner that you engage on your consortium due to key activities to be developed. Try to avoid maximum overlap, a lot of partners contributing in a single activity or a single partner just doing one thing, and rely on previous collaborations, successful ones that you already developed. So these are the typical roles that we could observe when you are drafting a proposal, that you have the coordinator, the project managers, the work package leaders, and the task leaders. So to avoid more complications, you should have these bodies around here. So you should have a management board for the daily activities, an executive board for the key issues to be solved, a scientific manager, a dissemination communication manager, and clearly differentiate them from the exploitation manager that should be the one trying to provide the sustainability of your project beyond. And of course, a project delivery manager in constant contact with the scientific manager and the management board. So these are the typical roles beyond the typical advisory board that we should recommend for initial project drafting, depending on the complication and depending on the goal that you are targeting. So then we move to, let's say that you decided that you want to be coordinator. So you will need to demonstrate this leadership. You will need to keep motivating the partners, checking the progress, be the main contact with the European Commission at all levels during the entire project length, have a strong influence on the work to be done, be reliable, and with a high responsibility towards the consortium. But you will need a lot of time and energy. So you need to be aware about these activities. In case that you want to be a work package leader, well, at the preparation stage, you will have a smaller role than a coordinator. You will usually be part of a core group of people doing the writing. You could influence a little bit the work and outcomes of the project, and you will be focused on a dedicated key part of the project, but you will still need a lot of time and resources to invest on the proposal preparation. And you will also have a high level of involvement, but it's a good option to become more experienced participant on project submission. At the management stage, you will have a role in the project board. You will have a clear responsibility for that part of the project in case that you are successfully granted. You will have a strong role in reporting, so you will need to pursue your task leaders to gather the activity for the reporting that you need to submit for the project coordinator. You will need to motivate and control the activity of these task leaders. It's not as time-consuming as being a coordinator, but you will have this possibility of trainship for being a coordinator in the future. In the case that you consider be a task leader at the preparation, you will have a small role in writing. Maybe depending on the strategy that they have selected, you will not have any role on writing. So you will have a dedicated focused task to work with. You will need to be a specific track record proven specialist on doing this kind of activity. It is a low risk approach in case that the proposal fails, also has a low level of involvement. It's a good entry point for ambitious beginners. At the management stage, well, you won't be engaged on daily management. You will be just responsible for your tasks. You will have a small role on reporting. You will need just to motivate counterparts on your task activity. You could have some influence on the project management, and it's a trainship approach for those partners that want to be work package leaders in the future. And for the participant role, well, you don't have influence. You used to be the last minute addition to a proposal. So you have to be aware about your interests before entering in this kind of a role. Visual, there is no risk if the proposal fails. It's an easy way to enter into Horizon Europe career developments. And it's always the possibility to enter on an already ongoing project because they want to replace some problematic part in case that is possible within one of the different granting schemes already there. So at the management stage, well, you just used to have the vote on the General Assembly. You are not engaged in the daily management. You have a small role in reporting. You have the lowest level of responsibility, and it's a nice way to enter to become familiar with the project's life cycle. So you have clearly opposite trends in terms of influence, control, and accessibility, depending if you are a coordinator, a work package, a task leader, or a participant. So how to choose your role? Well, at the end, it's a balance between the degree of involvement and responsibility that you want to achieve. It will be based on your ambition and your experience and the roadmap of your institution planned for the years to come. Just you need to think about that more involvement means more rewarding, but more involvement means more demands. So you need to choose the role that better fits the strategy of your institution and your own strategy. So let's continue with the build up of the consortium stage. So here you start inviting different partners and negotiation with them their participation. You will have this typical discussion about which the role will be, and the budget problems will arise. You will start having this situation of more demands in terms of the main effort, and you consider that maybe they are not appropriate, but you could not risk the proposal because they are moving out. So you have to balance reducing the budget of other partners because you want to keep them on board. At the same time, you will be requesting information to analyze the capabilities of the partners, to understand and clear things that allow you to prepare the proposal, because you will analyze that information and you will raise some questions. You will observe the reaction, and then you will define if at the end they are the suitable partner or not, because you need to adjust the roles, the responsibilities, the feelings, and the contributions, because maybe introducing a partner could ruin the entire partnership because they maybe have some problems with some of the already existing partners within your consortium. So at this stage, you have to design the project setup. You need to build the consortium, start writing the proposal, invest time and money, and that you will have a lot of risk of the proposal being rejected. I would say that's not recommended for beginners unless you have a good core team supporting you on submitting the proposal as a coordinator. So let's advance addressing the consortium. So you have to analyze critically the structure of the consortium without names, then you populate with the institutions, and you have to ask for different opinions about the logical approach of your consortium according to the needs that you have raised on your matrix. Analyze the voids and duplicates of main effort using the matrix of efforts. Analyze the budgetary issues and balances between the different partners, and the balance of power and leadership that you are assigning for the different partners engaged on the proposal. So this is the responsibilities assignment matrix. So let's say that you already defined the number of work packages, that let's say that you have a series of partners, engage it, and then you identify your work package leader as responsible with the letter there, and then you identify which are your main contributing partners with the big red circle, and then you have your minor contributing partners with the blue dot. So here you could have a series of problems. So don't know how to open the floor for the different attendants there to raise their hands or to internally discuss there about which are the problems that you identify. Here, let's say that you are a project coordinator and you already established your consortium, and here it is the analysis of your partners' contributions to the different work packages. So, Roberto, if you want to raise the discussion